would like to read 3 verses, poem from very famous poet, Persian poet, like he used to live 800 years ago. But his poem is really known around the world. I will read that and then I will try my best to translate. The main point of this poem is all human came from one source, one essence. We're all one. And we are member of one body. If we get hurt, if one of our member or finger get hurt, the entire body feels pain. Now, if you don't care about other human, how can I call you human? Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the government of Canada on behalf of all immigrants and immigrants for allowing us to live with security and freedom. Canada is the best place for immigrants to feel like they're home. Canada is the best place where immigrants have the right to practice their faith, study, work, and vote. This is the only country where immigrants can receive full benefits. Color, orientation, background, or beliefs, unfortunately, cause a lot of problems in many nations, but not in Canada. Yet, despite all these values and opportunities, many immigrants suffer for different reasons and miss out on opportunities. These cause a lot of difficulties and prevent Canada from being truly balanced and successful country.
As my career was on track, I started to look for ways to help others in need. I mentored, helped new immigrants, and most of all, started to help the underprivileged children through Cornerstone Valley. I have and always promote education. It does not matter what profession you are in. And you must at least take one course in financial literacy. So it does not matter what you do. Our universities don't do a great job in teaching financial literacy to non-business students. I believe financial literacy will make the person very successful and make our country prosperous. Language is a very important factor in integration. It does not matter what you know. If you cannot communicate, you know nothing. Sincerely. If you cannot tell what's in your mind, advice, you can only give away your integrity once. Make sure it's worth the price.
People come in, people come with experiences of a lifetime, 10, 15 years into their career. You don't want them to start as new graduates when they come to a new country. So we have to keep in mind that we should be able to recognize the qualifications that, or the other skills that they've learned, the work experience and everything else that's tied with it. Now the FPO plan was launched in, and I think my deputy did most of my speaking today, so I will be very quick. It was announced in November 2008. Again, it's one of those new things that we have to take or to handle aggressively because of the realities, demographic, population growth, labor shortages, birth rates, and I won't go into all that, we all know that. But it's based on a comprehensive systems approach, and we try to link stakeholders to this initiative to make sure we resolve this issue. We realize that they also have to have transparent, fair, and assessment, and fair, consistent assessment standards and processes. You've been assessed in Ontario, you come to Alberta, the assessment outcome should be the same. You shouldn't have to go through the same. Bridging the gap. Again, I won't go into that because Farid was talked about it and the deputy talked about it. In Calgary, we have quite a few at Overy College. It also highlights improved projects that will improve processes for immigrants to follow. We have self-assessment tools. Again, we funded the the regulatory organizations to develop self-assessment tools, so that before you come, you go into an internet cafe, you want to come to Alberta, you want to be an engineer, what steps do I go through? Okay, so if you go to APEGA's website, this is your self-assessment tool. You get a sense of where you fit, and then you make informed decision to come to, so that you kind manage your expectations. And I'll talk about IQAS, International Qualification Assessment Service, which also helps assess foreign credentials. And we'll help continue to work with employers, secondary institutions, PROs, professional regulatory organizations, that is. And we need to enhance communication skills. Again, before they come, they need that information, that pre-arrival support, which I'll talk about later on.
A few years ago, but everyone agrees the labor shortage is coming. Yet at the same time, we start to see a bit of foot dragging lately on what's happening with some of the integration initiatives that were underway. So skilled immigrants, some time ago, I believe 1896, were identified as a key for fulfilling labor shortages in Canada. And for most of our history, Canada has relied on skilled immigrants to come in and help the undereducated Canadians figure out how to run their economy. But we face a problem going forward with the baby boom, that they're aging, they're going to get older, and we know at what rate they're going to withdraw from the labor force. We also know that we can expect about 2% per year employment growth. Demand is going to grow, supply is going to contract. You can do the math. If you want to maintain a balanced labor market, you will need skilled immigrants to come in and fulfill what Canadians aren't doing with our falling fertility, or at least below replacement fertility. We all know in this room, I guess, that credential recognition is necessary for labor market integration. And there's been a lot of talk about how high the fees are. What's not often appreciated is that it's not just for immigrants that these high-paying professions are difficult to access. For Canadians, they're also extremely difficult. If you look at a Canadian medical student, what they have to do to get into that program in the first place, the barriers are high all over. And that's a certain context you have to have in mind, because in the political world, if anything is seen as a backdoor, that you somehow got a free pass into the system, and we treat Canadians who go abroad as well as international medical graduates. They don't get to be treated as Canadian doctors when they come back. What we have is a situation that Canadians don't treat the regulated professions as something that, if you're qualified, you can do it. These are elite clubs of jobs, and it's a competitive tournament. In general, in the Canadian labor market, we spent 30 years after the baby boomers started hitting the labor market trying to figure out how to ration access to the high-paying jobs. We've tried to figure out how to control unemployment by restricting flows of immigration, because we had surplus labor was the perception. The baby boomers faced high unemployment rates. The Canadian government and provincial governments responded by not relying on immigration, and we actually closed down access to licensing for physicians and groups like that. What we're looking at now is we're trying to undo 30 years of thinking and 30 years of policy making to think about how we go back to the 1950s and 60s, when Canada was trying to increase the capacity of our human capital through immigration. These are slow-moving changes, and a lot of it is changing the groupthink that's in the Canadian population.
Much as we might not want to think that way, it is the employer who's going to make that final determination. It's our job, I think, collectively, to a certain extent, is get them to the point where they truly understand the diverse needs and the diverse contributions that will walk in through that door. A full-time job is on this side, and mentoring is basically over here. Bridging is somewhere in the middle. It depends if it's a pay for no pay. Can be a little bit more difficult. For us, the mentoring program truly is a low risk for the employer and high reward for everybody in the game. It's our job, PRIAC's job, is to find that mentor. We work with community agencies, post-secondary schools, and the immigrant serving agencies who help us find those particular mentees. They're then screened. They're usually at level 7 with about 5 to 10 years experience. Most often we're finding about 15 years experience, bachelor degrees, master's degrees. And so what our job is to find those peers from the employers. It's funny, when I first came here, and I came to this job because I wanted to make a positive difference in people's lives. I have worked with church groups, I've worked with multicultural groups, I've worked with the hockey teams, lacrosse teams, soccer teams all my life. But I wanted to do it in a structure that was somewhat different than the structure that I had always dealt in. But when I came to this, my board said, okay, Randall, we're hiring you because you can connect to the corporate world. So I've lived in boardrooms, I rolled up my sleeves, I spent all-nighters doing deals, I know the language of the boardroom. Okay? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be some hard-acre business guy, and I'm going to make sure that employers understand what it is that they need to get, and they need to get skilled immigrants on board in positions commensurate with their skill and experience. Most of the mentors in our program, and we've had about 150 over the last 12 months, and to a person, they have said that this has made a positive difference in their life because they knew they were making a positive difference in someone else's life. So what we do is we engage the top level, and then as soon as we get that buy-in, then we're into the HR department. And once you're in the HR department, that's where you got to play ball. We know the language and we know what to say, but our connection is to all the wonderful work that's being done here.
Society spun off the Calgary Chamber of Commerce in 2004 and was set up as an independent society with a mandate to work with employers through education and information to improve the opportunities for the underprivileged groups in our society to find meaningful work appropriate to their capabilities. The council members are business people who understand the need to hire skilled immigrants and the value they add to business. However, we recognize that a significant gap exists between what businesses need and expect from a professional new hire here and what immigrant candidates can provide. And it's got nothing to do about their skills or their abilities. It's more to do with their ability to present these skills in response to job opportunities. You know, we've heard a couple of times today that although the recession eased and took some pressure off employers in Calgary in terms of filling shortages within their workforce, those pressures are starting to build again. And understanding the demographics of the society at work today and the needs of the future, those organizations who are ahead of the curve realize that they're going to have difficulty finding the skilled workers they need. And as we've heard a couple of times today, Mayor Nenshi mentioned it this morning, some organizations realize that we're already beginning to see that shortage. Countries like Australia and New Zealand are holding job fairs in Alberta to lure skilled workers to their countries. This is all an indication that the global competition for talent is again intensifying. And you know, given the winter that we've just been through, who could blame anybody for considering a move down south? Some companies may not be feeling the pain just yet, but the Employer Council believes that this is the best time for companies in Calgary to prepare to do a better job of tapping into the pool of talented and skilled individuals that are already here in Calgary. Every day at ATB Financial, we see the benefit of having a diverse workforce. My experience is that immigrants tend to be intensely loyal, incredibly hardworking, and often some of the best educated and most talented people in any organization. For those of you here today who represent employers, I would encourage you to show the leadership and spend the time to ensure that your organization doesn't overlook this opportunity. Thank you.